Hello humans, it's just Martine, and in today's video, we're going to be reading a figure skating thriller? Heck yeah. I have three things on my mind right now. School. If you didn't know, I'm a doctoral candidate studying legal psychology. The second thing, books. Always look around this channel. And three, the Winter Olympics. Because where I am, the Winter Olympics has been going on for a couple days, but we still have plenty of Olympics to go. And the day that this video is going live will be the closing ceremony for the Winter Olympics. So while I'm in this mode, school, books, Winter Olympics, I thought this is the perfect time to bring you an installment of legal psychology and literature and read a book that has to do with all three. I mean, it has to do with books in that it is a book, but it has to do with legal psychology in that it is a thriller, and I'm going to analyze it with you. Spoiler free. It has to do with the Winter Olympics because it's about an elite figure skater. And I'll also bring you through my life and show you how school, books, and the Winter Olympics are influencing my life this week. It is currently Monday afternoon, approaching 5 p.m., and I have had a stacked day already. I taught this morning. We were talking about eyewitness identifications in class, and it's also our last regular class before their first exam, which is big. So after class, the main thing that I was doing was lesson planning, because in our next class, we are reviewing for our exam. And one of the things that they have to do on their exam is read a case vignette just like this and tell me some things that went well in this case and some things that could have gone better, and give psychological recommendations about the things that were done well and the things that could be improved. In a way that is very non-ironic, but actually very intentional, I will be analyzing this book much like my students will be practicing analyzing these case scenarios. This video is also timely because one of the other things that I did today was grade an assignment that my students did last week called media selection. For their final projects, they have to pick a piece of fictional media and analyze it for legal psych concepts and then give psychologically based recommendations about how to handle those things. In this video, I will be analyzing the legal psychology involved in Blade by Wendy Walker, talking you through the things that I notice as a person who studies legal psychology, talk to you about some of the recommendations that I might give if I were to help with this case, and it's going to be a super fun time that is also about figure skating. Now, I'll admit, I have not been keeping up with figure skating in the Winter Olympics. A lot of my friends have, but my event of choice has been hockey. I have been working my way through the replays of all the women's hockey games so far. The men haven't started yet, where I am in space and time today, but this is the thriller that I had that was related to the Winter Olympics, so figure skating it is. I started this book last night and just read the prologue and the first chapter, and already I can tell that we're going to have a lot of rich information to work with here, because the setup of the story is that we're following this 13-year-old who is training in an elite figure skating place, and there's a murder. And then we're also following the defense attorney who specializes in defending juveniles, and she has come to help represent this 13-year-old figure skater. So already I know that we're going to be having lots of discussions about juvenile competency, so their ability to meaningfully participate in their defense, and also juvenile culpability, how responsible juveniles are for the crimes that they commit. Those are the things that I'm noticing, but I don't have any firm, concrete things to say yet, other than the fact that I'm excited because this author has experience in the law and also in figure skating, so I think it will be like a fun, realistic time all around. For the rest of the evening, I probably won't get much reading in because I have choir from 6:30 to 9:15 p.m. and I have to walk there and back, but rest assured that when I have something interesting to share, you will be the first to know. There is just so much going on this Tuesday morning, but we're gonna get through this. Last night, I did not manage to read a single page of Blade. I also didn't get to watch a single minute of the Winter Olympics, but I did plenty of legal psychology. Well, I mainly taught legal psychology, like I told you yesterday, but I have some things that I wanted to talk through with you right now. Here's my plan for the day. I'm really in this moment in my life, in a time when I need an hour-by-hour schedule to remind me to do the thing that's in front of me instead of worrying about all of the things that are after that. It is currently right before 9 a.m. and at 9:30 I need to be leaving for the office to meet up with my classmate for a work session. I have that work session until we break for lunch, I have a meeting with my major professor this afternoon, and then in late afternoon, I'm going to ditch work a little and do an exercise class, and sometime tonight I'm probably also going to have a phone call with a friend. This schedule doesn't look scary, but the work that I have to do is freaking me out a little, just to be completely transparent. I'm mainly working on this project right now that has been a nightmare the entire time that I've been working on it, but has recently become even more of a nightmare somehow, and a more imminent nightmare, because I have to present this project at a conference in the middle of March, and it's nowhere near ready. So that's what's on the mind and the heart. Sometimes our research does not go according to plan. That project is mainly about plea bargaining, and we're using real-world data, which is one of the reasons it's a nightmare. It's worth it, good work to be doing, also just a pain sometimes. That's how it is. So far this morning, I got up, I got ready, and I've done a couple of things for my class, because Tuesday is like a research day for me, but there are some imminent things that needed to happen for my class. The first is that I needed to print out this article that I had them read for their first article critique assignment. It's about Miranda waivers and how police officers will often trivialize signing away your Miranda rights. They'll be like, you just have to go ahead and sign this before we start talking. This is an experiment looking at that. And I need to make an answer key for the assignment, not just for me to grade it, but also for my future self. If/when I teach this class again, I will already have the answers. So I already know what this article is about, but I just need to identify the specific questions that I asked them and the answers to that. So I went ahead and printed that out. I also spent some time this morning making a reading quiz before every class. My students have a reading quiz. We're approaching their unit exam, but right after that, we jump straight into Unit 2, and the Unit 2 reading quizzes are not ready. I think one of the things that's been the hardest about teaching as a primary instructor for the first time this semester is that I just feel endlessly behind on the content that I need to be creating for my students to succeed. So whether that's making assignments, etc., nobody's complained about the time in which I get it to them, because I always manage to get it to them in plenty of time, but it is always a pressing concern on my mind. So I went ahead and broke out the 2 editions of the textbook that I have and made a reading quiz for their competency to stand trial chapter. That was interesting to revisit, because my program in grad school is about legal psychology, which is a non-clinical focus. Competency to stand trial is a forensic psychology focus, more clinical, which is what my undergraduate degree is in. So I know about that stuff, but it's been a while since I've revisited it. So that's fun. Now I'm going to pack my lunch and leave for the office, and hopefully just make such great strides today and trust my brain and trust the process, and it's going to be great. While I'm here, I might as well show you what I'm packing for lunch. My lunch goes in my mini Trader Joe's lunchbox, and I always keep some snacks in there just in case I happen to not pack enough, or I'm hungrier one day or whatever. I always keep a fruit leather and a bar of some kind in here. This is a Lucky Charms bar, so not like the pinnacle of health, but in a pinch, it works. For a random crunchy snack, I have these goldfish. Who knows if I'll eat them? And then I always pack myself a little sweet treat. So this is a chocolate egg of some kind. For my main lunch, I've been making this every week for, has it been months now? Probably not that long, but like it feels like forever. It feels like this is just a thing I do. This is some tahini black bean pasta that I make every week. I make enough for lunch for the entire week. So here's today's portion. And for my vegetable, I have Brussels sprouts. And then for my snack pre-workout, I have pretzels and cheese, little protein kick right there. And then I will probably pack a fun drink of some kind, usually a sparkling water, so that in the afternoon, if I feel like I'm losing hope, I can just open a sparkling water and everything can be okay. Hopefully I'll read some of Blade, because I'm really excited to talk about it with you, but we'll just have to see what happens. Last night I read a good chunk of Blade, and I'm approaching the 25% mark. I think I'm like 23% of the way in. And so far, the idea of mitigating circumstances are the main thing that I have to talk about in this moment, because our main character is really trying to understand why the murder that they're investigating occurred. As a defense attorney, she's not really going in asking, is this person guilty or not? She's going in asking the question, how can we sell this situation? And particularly when we're talking about children, there are lots of very strong reasons that we can give to prosecutors or courts or juries to help explain some of this behavior, not in a way that excuses it, but in a way that reduces the individual's responsibility for that thing happening. In particular, we're talking a lot in this book about the idea of trauma and what trauma leads us to do. And so we're focusing a lot on trying to understand what this 13-year-old girl is going through at this skating academy in order to try and figure out why she potentially would have murdered this assistant coach. And what's interesting to me about where we are in this case is that so far no charges have actually been filed, but we're still already working on building a set of mitigating circumstances to present to the prosecutor, because prosecutors have something called prosecutorial discretion, which is basically the idea that prosecutors have the ability to use their own sense of good judgment in what crimes they level charges against and what those charges are. There's obviously a framework that they operate within. One of the reasons this discretion exists is because not every case perfectly fits the letter of the law, and there has to be room in a system of humans for the humanity to come through. And so in this case especially, we're talking about this young girl who's gone through some traumatic events, and the question has to be, what justice does it serve if we simply seek the maximum punishment possible? In the United States, age is usually considered as a mitigating circumstance, but in this book we're seeing them try to build a case of other mitigating circumstances. So I'm interested to see moving forward if the district attorney in this book is going to level any charges against this 13-year-old, and if so, what those charges are going to look like and where the defense team is going to go from here. One thing that I would like to note, as soon as this crime occurred, they got in a local defense attorney. They later called in our main character, who's a specialist in defending juveniles, but they immediately called in a defense attorney, which is always important for every criminal case, but is especially important when we're talking about a 13-year-old defendant, because in psychology, we talk about the idea of having an appropriate adult there to help somebody who's vulnerable, whether it be based on age or disability, as they navigate the legal system. And parents do not make for good appropriate adults because they're not experts in the law typically. And so generally we recommend that defense attorneys serve as this appropriate adult. So I'm pleased at how quickly they got defense attorneys involved to help the child in this case. I'm interested to see where it goes. Again, about a quarter of the way through. So I'm like, are things about to pick up, or is the pace that we're sitting at kind of the pace that it's going to remain at for the remainder of the story? I'm interested to see. Right now, I've got some hockey on while I'm reading because it's just one of those days. I really don't have any energy, and so my work can wait, and it will wait. And my one meeting that's today got canceled just now, so that's great. I taught this morning, and really that's going to be what I require of myself. So I'm going to do whatever I need to get through the day, and hopefully that will include reading some more of this book. Happy Friday. I feel like this week has been crazy. After I recovered on Wednesday, Thursday, I was just really busy, had meetings and then a class. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was late. I did my habits. I went to sleep. But today is Friday, so lots of big things happening. First of all, I went to Aldi, so I'm going to give you a little Aldi grocery haul. I did show you what I got at Publix the other day in my B-roll. I was rushing, so I couldn't connect my microphone and talk you through it, but basically when I went to pick up my prescription at Publix, I grabbed some things that I either needed or were on sale at Publix that they don't have at Aldi. And then I went to Aldi this morning. I spent like $40 on this, so let's get into it. Mini bagels. I like throwing these in the freezer and just putting them in the microwave when I need them. A lot of these things you'll notice are breakfast related because I feel like breakfast this past week has been rough. Like, what have we been doing for that? Not great. So That's a focus. I got grapes as my fruit for the week. I'm not a huge grape fan, but I do love frozen grapes, and it occurred to me last night that I could make that happen for myself. So I went ahead and got some grapes because lately, all the other fruit, I've been looking at it and being like, do I want any fruit? But I need to eat fruit. So frozen grapes it is. Next up, I have these Milky Way ice cream bars as a very special treat because it's Valentine's Day this weekend, so happy Valentine's Day me. I get Milky Way ice cream bars. Delicious. On my list, I needed 1 bag of penne and 1 of rotini, so that's what I got. I use rotini to make my tahini pasta. Tahini rotini, ha 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 ha. And I use penne when I make my vegan Alfredo, so those are the 2 kinds I get. I'm running low on both, so I picked up 1 of each. Next up, refruits and breakfast. I got this Green Dream smoothie blend. We'll try it out in my blender and see if I like it. It has mango, pineapple, apple, spinach, avocado. Sounds like lots of good stuff. And most importantly for me, it does not have banana, because I do not want bananas overpowering my smoothies. Next, I have these snack packs that are just pretzels and cheese. They have tons of different varieties of snack packs. These are the ones that I like to get. I got my favorite protein bars. They're caramel double chocolate crunch, and they are yummy. And the rest of this stuff is stuff that I get every time, basics of my meal prep. I get a bag of little potatoes. I dice these up and roast them in some spices and just keep them in the fridge to microwave when I want them throughout the week. I can make falafel or black bean bowls with them. Another veggie I do every week, Brussels sprouts. Roast these up in the air fryer. It's a delicious time. 4 cans of black beans, because I usually use at least 3 cans of black beans a week. 1 for my tahini black bean pasta, 2 for my smashed black beans. 4 seems like a good number to keep me well stocked. That's the haul. So far today, work-wise, I have finalized the instructions for an assignment for my students and posted more research slots on the university research page. For my dissertation, I'm using a student sample, so I just put up slots so that students can take my survey through my school's page, and that's how I get participants. And it's been slowing down recently. I don't know what that's about. Like, right off the bat, I had an easy time getting my first 100 participants, but since then it's been slow going, which is not great because I do need a lot of participants for my dissertation. Other work plans for the rest of the day, I intend to make my lecture for next Wednesday because I don't have to lecture on Monday. My students have a test, but Monday afternoon, when I would usually make my Wednesday lecture, is visiting day, where the prospective students for my PhD program are visiting campus. And so I'm helping do like a campus tour for them and answering their questions on a grad student panel. So I will not be available during the normal time where I prep my Wednesday lecture. So gotta do that now. And then also, I wanna go through this article and make an answer key because I have not started grading that yet. I need to be doing that. So first I need to make the answer key so that it makes grading easier. I might not get to this today. It depends, because it's Friday. I'm usually gentle with myself on Fridays, but that's at least the goal. Because if I don't get it done today, I'll just work on it during their exam, like while I'm proctoring the exam. We'll have to see how I feel. I've made a little bit of progress in Blade. I think I'm like a third of the way through. No other like legal psych concepts have come up so far because we've mainly been focusing on flashbacks to the trauma of our main character, the defense attorney that we're following, because she used to go to this ice skating school or whatever. Being back there to help defend this young girl is bringing back a lot of those traumatic memories for her. So we're getting an insight into that. And I'm really curious as to whether or not that's really going to connect with the case that we have at hand or not. So far we're just focusing on that instead of focusing on the case that's in front of us. But I'm hopeful that something will happen soon. So stay tuned. Happy Saturday. I am halfway through Blade. A little over halfway now. I think I'm maybe 60% of the way in. And it's fine. There's not as much legal psychology as I want there to be. There's plenty of trauma psychology. Well, not even then. It's like we're seeing traumatic things happen to them and we know that messes them up later. But like, I want more. I want like concepts I can talk about type thing. And we're really just not getting that. There is one thing I highlighted though. One thing that happened is that this 13-year-old girl who's like being accused of murder, basically, she, right before the supposed time of the murder, she was fighting with somebody, and there's a video of the fight. And one thing that they brought up was that if you showed that video to a jury, all of them would convict her for this murder, even though she was fighting with somebody completely different, just because of like the look on her face, which is a good example of jury decision making and emotional jury decision making too, where like the facts of the case do matter, and as triers of fact, the jury is supposed to focus on those facts, but as human beings, emotion is going to impact us too, which of course our main character is also trying to play on to set up this defense of why this thing happened and the trauma that this girl has been through. But the reverse of that is the negative emotions that they're seeing from this young girl could lead them to believe that she's capable of committing murder. This book continues to be more about our main character's trauma. I'm waiting for it to really circle and bind everything together, but I'm just not getting that yet. I'm getting some good figure skating content though, enjoying that as I have hockey games on in the background and I watch people skate around. The goal for today is to set myself up to be able to finish it tomorrow, if not to finish it today. Finishing it today would be great, but we'll have to see. Happy Sunday. I'm sitting here reading Blade while I watch the quarterfinals match in women's hockey between Canada and Germany. I've realized I'm not going to be able to make it through all of the hockey games, so I'm switching up my tactic to just the big ones. So doing that right now while I read, and I wanted to give you a bit of an update because I'm 85% of the way through the book, and between last night and reading so far this morning, I've noticed two things that I wanted to talk to you about. The first is about one of the testimonies given. So basically the chapters in this have three possibilities. We could be from the defense attorney's perspective in the present day, we could be from her perspective as a child when she was at this training facility, or it could be testimony from supposedly, I don't know, a trial, maybe. I don't know if it's a deposition, a trial, an interview. It just says testimony, so that's a bit unclear to me. But regardless, those are the three options. And in one of the pieces of testimony, one of the people said something interesting. They had a report that says that Grace, the 13-year-old who's like being considered for this crime, demonstrated signs of conduct disorder, which is a precursor to antisocial personality disorder in adults. I had a couple thoughts about this. My issue with that is that I really don't think I've seen signs of conduct disorder from Grace as a character in the way she's been written, although maybe I just wasn't paying attention or maybe I'm not reading her correctly, but I just don't think it's there. She's gotten into one fight that's documented, but for conduct disorder, if you're going to use fighting as a sign of conduct disorder, it has to be the case that the child frequently gets into fights or initiates fights or physical violence of some kind. And we really just have that like one instance, unless I'm forgetting something. I'm not fully sure. Maybe it's just a tactic that they're trying to use in court to make her look bad. But regardless, that's my thought on whether or not she has conduct disorder. They are correct that it's a precursor to antisocial personality disorder in adults because, fun fact, one of the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder is that you have to have shown signs of conduct disorder before the age of 15. So there's your fun fact from the DSM, the Diagnostic Manual for Psychology. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was how we question people. So I've reached a scene, it was around 80% of the way through the book, where our main character gets to talk to Grace again about what happened. And she builds some rapport with Grace to kind of get Grace to open up a little and actually start answering questions. But then the way that she goes about answering questions, I'm torn on. She did some things well and some things she could have done better. One thing that she did well was when Grace finished a portion of the story, she tended to ask questions like this, quote, "What happened next?" This is what we would call an open-ended question. It doesn't suggest that there's a correct answer. It just prompts the person to continue answering and accessing their memory of an event. However, there are a lot of other questions she asked that were not so open-ended. For example, this one right here, I'm quoting, "You were in the TV room at Avery Hall when you had the fight with Tammy, right?" That suggests that there is a correct answer, that she was indeed in the TV room at Avery Hall when she had the fight with Tammy. And even though this was established beforehand, like this has been said in previous interviews, in order to get the most accurate and helpful information from a person in regards to these legal matters is really to give them open-ended questions and then clarifying questions afterwards. You don't want to be saying this happened, right? Because then the person almost always is going to be like, yeah, that's what happened. Sometimes people will feel like they can correct you if that's incorrect, but because of the authority difference in this situation, in this case, there are two pieces of authority difference. One, Grace is talking to an attorney, but two, Grace is talking to an adult. And as children, we're taught that adults are authority figures. So she views Anna as an authority. And when an authority figure asks you, this happened, right? We might not feel like we're able to correct them if they are not right. So that's why just in practice, we try to ask as many open-ended questions as possible and avoid leading or suggestive questions. I'm really interested to see how this ties up now, even me thinking about like, why is there testimony? Because still no charges have actually been put forward. Like, Grace has not been charged with any crimes. The suspect pool has actually gotten bigger. So I'm intrigued to see how it wraps up at the end, to see like where this testimony is coming from and what legal procedures are going to be occurring. This is a hard read. Like, the trauma that all the characters have gone through is pretty intense, but I'm interested to see where it goes. And I'm glad that at least finally they had some things that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to go back to watching and reading, and we're going to finish this book up today because I have less than an hour left. I have like 40 minutes left of it. So that's the goal in between my physical reading. I'm just alternating between a big book that I'm trying to make progress on and then this book. I just finished up reading Blade, and I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. I'm a little conflicted. Do I give it 2.5? Do I give it 3? Because in my mind, I'm like, I didn't particularly care about the characters, but then I feel like the concept was super cool. I don't feel like there was anything that was poorly done. And so I think maybe it just didn't hit for me, which I'm going to let be a 3 stars, where it was like, there were things I liked about it, there were things that didn't work for me, but not things that I thought were like actively bad. I do feel like things came together enough. I would have liked maybe a little more, but in general, I feel like we got the resolutions that were interesting and satisfactory for us as readers. I do think one thing this book does really well is talk about the impact of trauma on people's decision making. That's specifically something that our main character is emphasizing over and over and over again. She's emphasizing how her trauma has impacted her and her life choices, even her choice of careers. And we're also seeing, as she builds this case to try and protect this 13-year-old, how she's using that to explain what may or may not have happened. And so I feel like there was some really interesting conversation within the book about that. I feel like, and this is maybe a little weird to say, there wasn't enough investigation for me in this story. I really feel like our main character wasn't taking many steps to try and figure out what happened and what she could do about it. Instead, she was kind of just reliving her past, thinking about her traumas, and like subsequently stumbling into things along the way. I would have liked to see some more purpose in her trying to figure things out. Even some really big reveals came through paperwork from people at her office who were like, we were doing that one thing you asked us to do, here's what we found. And I really wish we would have spent more time actively pursuing that and like seeing her thought process of it, instead of it just being conveniently sent to her by another person. But regardless, I thought this was a really interesting take on a mystery thriller, just a different setting, different types of characters than I feel like we usually see, and so I really appreciated it for that. And it provided such excellent entertainment while watching the Winter Olympics this week. I didn't watch any of the figure skating events, but I've watched clips of it, and I was definitely thinking of this book and the things that I learned in it the whole time that I was watching those clips. So very, very interesting. But because I have finished the book and it is Sunday afternoon and there's not anything else exciting that will happen that I'm going to share, I think this is where our journey together for this week will end. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. Do you have any mystery thriller recommendations that are like a little out of the norm? For example, I liked the setup of this book because we don't normally follow figure skaters in a mystery thriller. So any recommendations that are outside of our normal character types in mysteries would be very much appreciated. And subscribe for more bookish and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!